Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, heading down to Bass Pro with Benoît, the Reactive Malinois. Now we've got him at a good spot as far as his growth and where his head's at to be able to learn. He's learned to learn. All your marker words are put in, everything you need to be able to, the voice tones, everything you hear me using, he's getting used to and drawing confidence from. So when I take him into things and I have a certain voice tone denoting certain things, like one of those voice tones is telling him it's okay when I see nervousness out of him. It's all right, come on, it's okay. I got you. You know, in other words, my mental state of mind for myself is that I'm there to guide and help the dog get through the fears, but not to coddle him, not to overbearing and, oh, it's okay, have an attitude of strength. Come on, let's go. Let's go back to the children. Your child falls on the ground, starts screaming, hey, get up out of there. Come on, let's go. You know, and your attitude and how you treat the child is what's going to make that character as time goes along, right? Sure, there's a lot of genetic stamp that's involved with it, but at the same time, if you do the right things, you can give strength to a dog, right? And how you treat him and what you do with his environment, agility, and how you interact with the world around you that he picks up on. One of those things, a good example of this, if I have a dog that's coming at me, let's say a pit bull or something, and I am worried that this dog is going to get in confrontation with my dog and or with Benoît, he's going to have a lot of fear and he's going to end up, you know, exploding forward, and it's going to cause a problem because of the nature of the other dog coming at him. The other nature of the dog is just neutral, but they flare into fighting, so whatever. So bottom line is, if I had something like that happen, I would actually pull back on the leash and put the dog behind me, and I would take the forward position. And I would be the one saying, get out of here, and I would be challenging that dog, and I would be the one that was doing the dominant force in that pack. I am the pack leader. I am the one that's going to take the lead. And so the dog needs to sense this. He needs to know that you are the alpha wolf. You are the one that's the commanding force in his life or her life, and that they don't have to be the one that shows the aggression. A lot of times that's where it comes from. The dog doesn't sense strength in you, and you've been coddling it, and oh, my little foo-foo, and then you're nervous and you're insecure, right, with how you deal with this situation coming at you. So that, remember, the dog reads everything coming from you, your emotional states of mind, everything. He can see it before you see it, right? So that being the case, sorry about that, I got a rule of myself of taking off glasses when I'm talking to somebody because I want you to see my eyes. Here I am talking with my sunglasses on, and it gives a whole different feel to it, doesn't it? Now you can see the real me, not hiding behind the glasses. So back to my point. Your strength and how you handle that environment is very important. And I'm talking about this because I jumped to the conclusion, or my read of the customer, because I do that. You read the customer as much as you do the dog, right? Is that these folks didn't have a clue in what they're doing with dogs. That being the case, they're not putting forward the energy levels and their emotional states of mind that they should be putting forward, that the dog can rely on, right? So trainers don't talk about this stuff. They know it's there. It's probably in the back of their cranium, but they don't hone in on the little particulars that might make a big difference, right? So how you act and what you do is very important. Now, with Benoît, he has shown a lot of nervousness. He's not going off on people per se as much, unless somebody came up with the wrong body language and that nervousness would rear its ugly head. So you got to be able to read your environment and see things around you. Not everybody's going to be somebody that I want to pet my dog. If they're clumsy, you get somebody that's too precocious, comes up and has no body language to be able to be beneficial to the dog, and it's only going to make him go right back into that same hole and that same pit that we're trying to dig him out of, right? We're trying to repair the animal. So how you do things and who you have pet your dog is important too. You know, a lot of times ladies are better than men, because women have a lot more giving nature, and they're going to have a lot more instinct to be kind to the animal that needed, whereas a male might have too much of an overbearing, precocious attitude that stunts the dog and makes him insecure and nervous, and here comes that reactivity, right? So we're at that spot now that we got to worry about this sort of thing, right? I'm going to go into Bass Pro. That's probably a jump or two faster than I really should go. But I want to feel the dog out. And remember, if you go into something and you decide you're going to go do something like what I'm doing now with Bass Pro on a Saturday, more foot traffic and a lot different sound within Bass Pro. How do I know that? This is one of my areas of environment. There's a large crashing waterfall, and at very high ceilings that create a little bit of an echo. And in general, a lot of times there may be a bunch of kids in there, they're screaming, they're yelling. That sort of thing is going to make the dog more nervous. So I am taking a farther leap maybe than I should, but I'm pretty good at what I do, and here's the rules. If it doesn't feel good and the dog doesn't seem to be in the right mental state of mind to be able to handle it, I will back off and I will end up ending it on a high point and I'll get out of there, right? I have that ability. I am the one that's manipulating my environment. So it may be more advantageous for me to go in on a weeknight when there's a lot less foot traffic and it's a lot quieter, right? On a weekday, Monday through Friday, might be a lot less of the physical, because Bass Pros are always right on the freeways and they grab all that freeway traffic and people are traveling. The weekends are always going to be busier, right? So I am going to go ahead and bite off this piece of cheese, but I'm going to have to be the one that chews it, right? In other words, I'm going to have to deal with whatever comes at me because I have made the decision to take a jump faster than maybe I should. Might be more advantageous for me to stay at Home Depot and keep working that environment until he builds up a lot more confidence. The decision comes from me understanding the full ramifications of what I've got to deal with and having the skill level that I do, right? I might not suggest that this is something that my customer should do right away. The customer is probably going to want to be taking the dog away from their home environment. In other words, don't walk down the street, don't go to that same area that all these triggers are already there, that you have to fight through and correct the dog, and that's not conducive to your training program that you're trying to do with that individual dog, right? Every dog is different. So I might suggest to the customer that they get in their car and go drive to a little bit more of a neutral location, a slow mall, in the evenings when it's cool and you just get up, where the shade is a little bit cooler in that mall. They might have a pond or something, a waterfall or something. I know that they have that down there at the mall. They have an outdoor mall out there that they have, and that might be something. So you've got to think about your environment, what's going to be most conducive to be able to use for your training and what you're trying to do with the animal to get his head in the right spot, right? So that's what we're up to, and we've got to think it through when we do this, right? But again, a customer that might not have all the skill level that I have and understand what I've already done with the dog, et cetera, may be better served to be more cautious, to be more thinking it through and where they're going to go and how it's going to be conducive to their growth within the customer and dog relationship, because that's what we're going to have. Dog's going to go back home, and there's going to be a change in the animal that the customers start to feel confident about, and sometimes customers will go too far, right? I'll give you a good example of that. I had a nice puppy with one of the Mastiffs, and I can't think of the breed right now, but he was real hanging skin, and beautiful dogs. But the type of dog that if you don't do the right thing, they're predisposed to be a problem because they've been bred with heightened suspicion, and they're more prone to be aggressive because of their genetic stamp, right? A lot of them, Cane Corsos, Pressas, all these dogs that are big Mastiffs, they've been bred over in Europe and Italy to protect courtyards. And they brought out that dog's heightened suspicion and his aggression that's based on that side of the brain. The way the dog brain works is he's more prone to be insecure, and that brings out the aggression that they want to protect that courtyard, to protect the home, right? but it's not so good out in the public. We're trying to get our dogs to go out in public and to live a different lifestyle than we did 20, 30 years ago, right? Things have changed. Now more people have dogs out and they're having to face that environment. So like I told that dog, let's go back to that dog. The customer, I did a great job with the dog. It was puppy development and all that good stuff. Gave the dog back to the customer, and he was Mexican-American, so what he did was had a party, Cansanita or whatever they were doing, and drinking too many drinks and walking around the party and he was totally confident that the dog was, but he doesn't understand it, and he put the dog into a situation that the dog ended up having a guy with a huge old sombrero hat coming at him, and again, drinking and that doesn't go together. So it wasn't an environment that was conducive for the dog's growth and development because the customer was too confident. And an accident happened and that dog was affected. Like I talked about with the fear beam, that brand seared the dog and scared the dog, and it was hell on wheels to try to recover the dog. In fact, this dog's probably never recovered because the customers only put so much into it, and we didn't recover the dog over that trauma that the dog experienced at this one party, right? All because customers have, general public has an attitude that what we do is it's a machine and it's a robot. I call that robot syndrome. Your perspective is very important in how you view what you're doing with the animal and how you get them through it, right? And if you have the wrong perspective and you think you're going to give your dog to a trainer like me, the dog's going to come back trained, and your mental attitude is it's a piece of machinery, and you no longer have to worry about the psychological welfare of the dog, you're going to blow purple Twinkies, especially if you have any of these breeds, right? I've got one customer that I did a puppy development session with a few months ago, did a great job with this puppy, and I did everything I could to get the customer to come to lessons, and with their busy lifestyle and their whole frame of mind, they haven't taken one lesson from me. Customer's happy, and I just keep telling them, make sure you keep taking that dog out in public and you do my greeting routine, you greet them into people, and you do a lot of people, places, things, and don't stop, right? Because that's what generally happens. Cane Corsos get in that closed environment. They're great with a family, and people in the family love them, but they never see that other side of the dog until they start to go outside in public, and now all that fear, insecurity, and everything else transfers into aggression, and they've got an aggressive Cane Corso. And what generally happens with those dogs, they will either get thrown back into the system and get put down because of the aggression problems, and or they never go anywhere with the dog, and the dog lives his whole life stuck at home, which to me is sad. That's why we train. It's another big reason that I train, not just to save dogs and to be able to do what I do to be able to possibly save a dog so a dog doesn't have to go through this out of ignorance, and that's what it is. It's lack of understanding and not understanding the whole microcosm of the dog, right? And so that being the case, it's critical. It is critical in what you think and what you perceive dogs are all about, right? So just keep it in mind that it's never just because I give you the dog back and the dog's done with his first session with me, 30-day inboard training program, doesn't mean that the dog is a piece of machinery and just go home and now you don't have to do anything, right? If you don't keep on top of it, you don't keep working the dog, you don't develop your relationship with that dog and how you interact with the environment, you're going to end up with a problem, okay? So I try my best to tell people and try to educate them from day one, from my consultation. And I do it in such a way that I'm telling people, and then they're usually not, oh yeah, I understand, yes. And then here comes the dog and here comes their lifestyle, right? What they really want out of their lifestyle and the dog is in conflict because of the fact that they don't understand that they've got to get off their rear end and they've got to keep putting the energy and the work into keeping their relationship and that dog working and keep it growing. You always hear me talking about when I'm doing my videos. I'm always talking about growing the dog, right? How many times you heard me say that? Grow the dog. What I'm talking about is the dog is in a certain mental state of mind, a certain place in his training program, and I always want to make the dog become better, no matter where he's at. How good he is, it doesn't matter. I'm always trying to grow the dog, right? Because it's a never-ending thing. Never-ending. All right, so that's about it. Let's go see how our Bass Pro is going to do. I'll do a couple videos, but I don't have much. I don't have a crew following me and people that have cameras in their hands like a lot of these kids do. But it is what it is, and I hope you learn and grow something, grow yourself, and you start to understand what I'm talking about. If you're looking into dog training and you don't realize that it's a life of the dog commitment, right? All right, I'll talk to you later. Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, heading to Bass Pro with Benoît, the Reactive Malinois. Talk to you later.